I'm Georgina Hall, and this is the Female Empowered Podcast, inspired by the casual conversations I've had with thousands of women over my career in coaching. This is not just another wanky women's wellness podcast. We are bringing the uprising. Hi friends, welcome to the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Georgina Hall, personal trainer, online coach, and offerer of opinions. Today, I'm joined by my mate Shmorgs, aka Morgan Richards, Hunt the Good Project on Instagram, always hunting the good, and trainee counsellor. So I may or may not call her by her real name throughout this podcast. If you're confused, Shmorgs is Morgan. Hi Shmorgs.
Hello Georgina, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How was that long-winded introduction for you?
It was great, it was snappy, it was fun. And I was like, offer of opinions, it's definitely accurate, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that bit as well. Yeah, I am. I mean, I offer opinions, whether welcome or not.
I know, great. Give the people what they want or don't want, you know. Why not?
But do you think that I maybe over-clarified your bit?
No, I think we're good. I think Morgan, Shmorgs, not dissimilar, but, you know, people know who I am now, so.
Yeah, smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord. I'm not bored, I'm pretty happy to be here, so.
But it is quite accurate in the fact that it is like a smorgasbord of wonderfulness.
Oh. Look at the eyebrow raising. I mean, if you listen to this, you can't see the eyebrows, but, you know, they're there.
For the YouTube viewers.
For the YouTube viewers, yeah.
Here, I have my eyebrows as well. Listeners know that you are missing out right now.
No, I'm not as mobile as you in the brow area, but yeah, great.
I went to drama school, Shmorgs, so don't feel bad.
Oh, right, okay. So you got a qualification eyebrow raising.
Yeah,
cool. Right.
Yeah. It was.
I feel better now.
One of my CPD points.
Great stuff.
So Shmorgs, tell us a little bit about Hunting the Good first.
So Hunting the Good, the way that I came up with the name for the project is I was just having a look. I've always been interested in mental health and human behaviour. And I was thinking, what can I call this? What can I call Hunt the Good Project? Which I'll go into describing what it is later. But I just typed in some things and I saw this little girl and she was about maybe 6 years old and she has this gorgeous curly blonde hair. She stood on a sink looking in the mirror and she's just going, I love my mom, I love my dad, I love my dog, I like the sunshine, I love this. And she was just so excited. And I don't think she knew that her mum was there. And it was just called Hunt the Good. And I was like, this kid, something about this kid. And although it was really silly, just made me feel like so full of joy. And I was just like, it's called Hunt the Good Project. It's just that. It's just about like that kind of passion about life, and kids just really have that and they just really kick into it. So that's why it's called Hunt the Good. And Hunt the Good is a term used in sort of the army for resilience. So it's about, you know, people in the army are experiencing like post-traumatic stress disorder, seeing things that are violent, you know, dealing with a lot of mental health issues, and they're trained to hunt the good, which is like positively looking for the things that are good in your life when you're surrounded by pain. And I thought, well, that's just a great name for it, and it's a great skill to be able to harness for your own mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And that little girl actually sounds like you.
Yeah, I was like,
I can imagine you doing that on the daily.
I mean, I do. I'm quite thrusty in army and a bit like, yes. My partner's like, you need to go to sleep. And I'm like, but it's the morning and the mornings are the best. So, yeah.
I love the mornings. I love all of the time.
Apart from 3 p.m. I don't like 3 p.m.
Oh, really? Why not? What's wrong with 3 p.m.?
I don't know. Just like crash for me. It's just like that gooch part of the day where I'm like, oh, I've got nothing. Am I sleeping? Really? Am I eating? Not sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it all of the time, or is it just in the winter when it's dark by 3:30?
I mean, I probably over-exaggerate and I probably don't feel that bad, but I think just because I've started taking vitamin D and I've definitely noticed a difference in my energy levels.
I've literally just taken mine.
Oh, get in.
Who can hear, that's vitamin D rattling right there.
This is probably going segue off already, this is our first segue, but I went for a blood test recently, vitamin D3, yeah. And they said I was a little bit low in vitamin D, and I thought, well, I'm going to supplement with that and with iron because I eat a mainly vegetarian diet. And I would generally get fatigued quite regularly throughout the month, and not even happening anymore. I just generally feel a bit lower energy. I wouldn't say fatigued at 3 p.m, but I feel so much better for supplementing with vitamin D, and that has definitely improved my mental health.
Interesting, because last time I had my bloods done, it was because I was feeling fatigued, and it was vitamin D deficiency that came up on mine as well. But vitamin D is one of the few supplements that I would recommend people to take every day, regardless, especially in this country in the winter. Get a vitamin D supplement down here.
Well, I spoke to the I've been seeing a chiropractor recently, and he just said, you know, if you have your shins and your forearms covered, apparently that's where vitamin D is absorbed, and we're constantly covered up. It's so grey at the moment, and so if you're not getting access to sunshine, then no wonder you're feeling a little bit low. And I think sometimes physical symptoms and feelings really affect your mental health. So if you can cover that baseline of feeling good, obviously what you talk about and teach your clients, it's just, you might as well start yourself on a good baseline and work from there up over.
Absolutely. Take control of what you can control, your diet and movement.
100%.
So we've gone off on a massive tangent, and we barely got past the introduction. It's going to be like this, isn't it, this whole time?
It is. Yeah.
You're actually the only guest that I've had on so far that I haven't got questions for. I have got a few questions from clients, but I haven't prepared anything for us.
Right then, well, we can just take it in any way where you'd like.
So there are no tangents. This is what is meant to happen.
I know this exactly. So you don't have to get all serious and think it has to go in this order, because this is a bit like life, isn't it? I think, brilliant segue into life. I think sometimes in my own experience with mental health is that I try to I'm like, right, I'm going to hack this because this is the thing I'm getting wrong. I try and hack it, and it's like a slippery snake. I try and grab a hold of it, and it just slips out, and almost life shows you a lesson that like slaps you in the face. Just when you think you've got it sus, it's like, nah, here's another trapdoor. So yeah.
And don't you find as well, once you've got a hold on one thing, something else goes to shit anyway? It's like
sometimes it makes you laugh.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
You got your relationship in order, and then like your business is lacking, or you've got your business going really well, and then your health and nutrition is just to shit.
Completely. And it's just like, we both obviously read Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and she talks about how having that grid and looking at that grid, and sometimes when something traumatic or big or a change happens in your life, it kind of covers the grid of your life. But then generally you've got so many things going on, and trying to balance all of them. If you do have a business, projects, kids, career, learning, lifestyle, nutrition, mental health, there's a lot to sort of get a handle on. And I almost think that the lesson is, when you're trying to learn about all these different things that are all very subjective, it's almost like you being objective and sitting back from that and going, well, what is the lesson I need to learn? Because I had an expectation that I'd get this right and do this right, but I've actually not met the expectation. Then I've been hard on myself. And then you've completely missed the point, because the point that you're supposed to realize is that, well, don't be so serious, have a bit of a laugh at yourself, and don't be so harsh on yourself, and then you progress forward. So actually, kind of in my own experience, things like that work in a backwards way. When I sort of ease off the pressure, I just go, okay, I'm just going to leave you, I actually step further forward, which seems, I think it's like Alan Watts and Aldous Huxley, they talk about the backwards law, and it's in a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here. I'm assuming
you're absolutely allowed to swear on here.
Yeah. So he talks about that and probably describes it a lot better than I have just then. But it's just about like sort of easing the pressure, and sometimes things come into fruition without you just sort of pressing for them all the time.
I guess it's taking expectations away, isn't it? Because expectations can lead to disappointment.
Completely. And I know you and I have talked about this before, Georgina, about a guy called Alan de Botton, and he runs the School of Life. Effectively, he went to a boarding school, wasn't really taught about emotional intelligence, and he's built a school based on that, just to help himself and people around him. And I went to one of his workshops in Sydney in Australia, and it was called The Steps to Calm. And I remember him saying, well, not him, one of his tutors sort of saying that it's good to have a bit of pessimism, like a healthy level of pessimism, just to kind of almost put a buffer on your expectations. So just sort of knowing that, oh, well, I'm going to apply for this job, but if I don't get it, that's okay. And if, they don't like me, that's okay. In this way, just kind of not setting yourself up for that massive sort of fall, and like you say, managing expectations.
Not being attached to the outcome. It's a very powerful place to be.
Completely. And I think if if you're building that strength within yourself and you know your self-worth and you're developing your self-worth, if you don't get it, it's just like, well, that just wasn't for me, rather than internalize and thinking, hey, I'm a piece of shit, which is not the case. There could be any number of reasons why you don't get the job, for example. So I think, yeah, that's helpful.
What can we learn? Because we never lose, Shmorgs, if we learn.
Well, that's it, exactly. And I think sometimes with that, lessons come round and around and around. And again, it's just like, hey, mate, have you learned this? No. Hey, mate, have you learned this? And then people are like, why always me? It's like, because you haven't learned the lesson, pal, you know, like,
yes.
It's like, come back again.
That's what we talked about with Kyla from Awaken Her with Love. Very, very spiritual, and saying the universe is giving you these signs all the time, and you keep repeating these patterns because you are not listening to the message. And until you listen to the message, you're going to keep repeating them, and at some point it's going to get to the point where the universe is grabbing you by the shoulders and shaking you. Wake up.
You better. And I think with that, I am quite a spiritual person. You know, I'm not religious, but I mean, I know we've had this discussion about religion and spirituality, and I like to believe in magic, so to speak, just magic of the world. And I like to do Avalon cards and tarot cards. I just like to think about messages, and I think whether you believe in the spiritual message of tarot cards or whether you look at an image and it actually just brings your awareness out into the forefront. If you get, you know, like the 5 of Wands or something, you think, oh yeah, I've been, you know, looking at these 5 wands, or I've been, you know, planting these seeds, 5 seeds, and you can pull out messages and, you know, tap into your own psyche. But with that, and with sort of spiritual beliefs, I think sometimes there's actually like scientific evidence. Like, for a really easy, straightforward example, if you constantly walk into the kitchen and you always bash your right hip on the corner of a kitchen bench, and you do it every day, and it's just like, oh, it's always me, like I'm too fat, I'm too awkward, I'm too this. It's just like, well, no, why don't you just pay attention when you go into the kitchen?
Move
and then that
the
is
bloody
science.
bench.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Or just like, and then it's just like, oh, this keeps happening to me, and this must be because I'm fat and I'm terrible and I'm this, or I can't see. It's just like, well, no, you just need to pay more attention to that. And then that is actually like science, because there's evidence there. Do you know what I mean? And so sometimes if you're not spiritual, that's totally fine. But often the spiritual and the science kind of complement each other. So
absolutely. And I think regardless of what you believe spiritually, what has come up time and time again on these podcasts from different people in different areas, be it spiritual, be it therapy, be it science, is that you hold the answers, and it's just about pulling them out. Because if you pull out a tarot card and you believe that, whether other people think it's bollocks or not, if you can take something from that tarot card, it's something that you already know, and it's just the tarot card that's prompted you. Just like if you think there's a sign from God, that will teach you something that you already know, but it's just pulling that knowledge out of you. So yeah, I totally get that. I'm sure Sparkle Laura said it on the last episode. Happiness, knowledge is within.
Completely. And I think that's kind of the basis of therapy or any sort of mental health, where in that example of the tarot cards there, when I've sort of been studying to be a counsellor, we use a type of therapy called Gestalt, which is all about sort of completing cycles of your thinking and understanding and awareness. But they're quite creative, quite holistic. And so there was a time there where we used just a deck of playing cards, and we had to sort of facilitate our client in sort of, you know, talking about family and family dynamics. So they had the pack of cards, and they were asked to sort of put out, you know, their mother, their father, who they thought they were, and any other sort of supportive people. They could arrange them in any sort of style. And it was quite interesting because I'd put like a few key figures and I'd overlap them, and I'd pick like my partner is the Joker, and I don't know if I put me as a Joker or me as a Queen, probably as a Queen, I think it was Queen, and they were all overlapped, and you know, like my sister was there, and different friends and stuff. But then some people just, you know, got their father card and just threw it across the room, or some people put themselves in the middle and then put all of, you know, like 8 supporting people around them. And then even that, it's like, it's just playing cards. They don't have inherent meaning or a book like a tarot card. But like what you say, you're looking at the images, and, you know, there's so many different ways you could place them or arrange them, or who you would pull out and who's important to you. And I think awareness, although you might be sad, that's not awareness really. It's like, right, well, it's the start of awareness, but it's just like, well, what is making me sad? How can I dig into that? Can I dig into that further?
Okay, so let's run with this, because this is something I've made a post about it the other day, actually, because quite a few people in my client group have been saying this at the moment, you know, like, oh, I haven't posted in a few days because I felt a bit down, or I'm not really sure what's up with me because I feel a bit sad. And I put this post on, you're probably quite familiar with it, the Wheel of Emotion. And how people seem to be under the illusion that if we're not happy, there's something wrong with us. But look at the Wheel of Emotion. Was it something like there's 34,000 emotions that the human body is capable of feeling? And for some reason, we think if we're not fine, then we've got a problem. If you're sad, you're sad. You be sad. You don't need a reason to be sad. You don't have to be on your period. You can be as sad as you want, mate. But maybe you're not sad. Maybe there's a whole load of underlying emotions beneath sadness that you need to dig into a little bit. Maybe it's lonely. Maybe you're unfulfilled. Maybe this can lead to something about your job, your relationship, blah, blah, blah.
Completely. And I think with that, I mean, exactly what you're saying. Like, sometimes, to be honest, I like being sad. Like, I like being sad. I like just
have a little wallow in it.
I'm going to have a cry. I'm going to put me cozy stuff on. I'm going to eat chocolate. I'm going to watch a movie that's going to make me face just rain, because I just, afterwards, I just feel so much better. And sometimes I'll say to my partner, I'm like, oh, the tears are coming. And I don't know why. I literally just like, and I'm just like, just having a cry. And he just like looks at me and I just have a cry. And I'm like, okay, I'm fine now, bye. Like, and obviously it's not all that shallow. Sometimes I do have experienced, you know, very deep pain in my life. But I think with that, this kind of notion to always be happy and fine and on it. And I think especially with the women that you've, you know, spoken to on your podcast, the women that you have in your group, you know, encounter so many empowered women and you empower women. And I think with that almost comes this burden of always having to be on it. And when you're not on it, you feel like there's something wrong. And for me, when I feel like that, I generally, like, this week has got exercise in it, it's got this podcast, it's got work, overtime, it's got an interview. And like those weeks for me, when I'm feeling it, I'm like, yeah. And generally that's how I want my weeks to be. But all of a sudden, you know, you either haven't eaten enough food or you've over exercised or you're a bit more stressed and your body's just like, you're now a mushroom, go to bed. And you're like, but no, I don't want to go to bed. Like, I want to do all the things. And you just have to succumb to that. You just have to fill up. It's like, well, this is your fill up time. You didn't want to stay in bed all day, but you're ill now, so you're going to have to do that. And it's almost like your kid's self is just like, well, get to bed and restore, because you can't always be on it, because your body is, you know, changing all the time with symptoms and feelings and emotions. And that needs to be regulated. And I think you can learn mechanisms to maintain your level of energy quite well, like you have said, vitamin D, getting good sleep, plenty of water, nutrition, knowing when not to train, managing stress, mindfulness, like all the stuff that you talk about and we've discussed. But sometimes even all of those things are not enough and your body's just like, nah.
And sometimes I think it's important to say that all of those things that do you good that you just listed there, all of those things can sometimes cause you extra stress and pressure. And we discussed 100%. This with Sylvia when we talked about super mums. Who is this super mum? You know, sometimes mums having the time to drink their water, get their steps in, train, keep their kids alive, do their job and keep a relationship going. There's not enough hours in the day. And sometimes I think having those added pressures on you, just chill, mate. If you haven't hit your protein today, don't worry about it. You'll not die. You've kept your kid alive. Well done.
Completely. And I think it's just like managing what you can. And I think some days it's like, right, I ran a marathon today. You know, I wrote this assignment. I got this high five. I got a new job. I just, you know, made some extra money. And some days it's like, I got a shower and I put my clothes on and I painted my nails, and that was the achievements of the day. And I think, again, with that managing and that kind of understanding, it's like, well, there's peaks and troughs and there's intensities and, you know, sizable achievements and then small achievements that actually need more attention.
100%.
And I think with that as well, with children, and I don't know a lot about sort of children and their psychology. I don't have children myself. I've never had dependents, but again, with Alan de Botton, he talks about a guy called Donald Winnicott, who's a family psychologist, and he talks about the the theme of the good enough parent, and actually being a perfect parent is not attainable, and potentially can develop like neuroses in your children by always trying to be perfect. And it's like, if you're good enough, by letting them down slightly, you're actually preparing them for the world. Like when they're not getting everything, and when they understand that it's like, oh yeah, mum is tired, or dad is, tired, and they can't be here for this, that, and the other, you're preparing them for the letdown that is going to happen within life. So I think mums and dads, especially in this time, are doing a bloody great job.
Yeah, with all the homeschooling and working from home and everyone
like
being
that
under
is
the same
mind-blowing.
roof. I couldn't do it.
No, I couldn't either.
I can only just look after myself.
I need a dog, so I'm going to show this is my sister's little dog, Bobby, Christmas dog. Look at it. Oh.
That is really cute. For the people on YouTube who can see Shmorgs' dog on a Christmas card.
Oh,
it's not great listening for the listeners, but
it's not. But then maybe it'll get them to sit down and chill out.
Sometimes the YouTubers get exclusive content like this, my little octopus that I have brought for show and tell.
Have you seen Finding Nemo?
Turn him inside out.
Oh. How do you feel today, that one or the other one?
It's my mood octopus, so I turn him whichever way to show his face, depending on how I feel. Today, he's a happy little octopus.
Oh.
But sometimes I'll put him as a sad little octopus, and Anna will be like, why is it a sad octopus today? And I'll be like, don't know. Just is.
Okay.
Just want to be a sad octopus today.
And that's awareness and communicating your feelings all with a little octopus.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
It's been a handy tool for lockdown too, Shmorgs.
Yeah, completely.
How has lockdown 2 been for you?
Definitely better than the first one. I think
really?
The first one, so the first one for me, I lost my job quite early on. So I was working in a cafe to supplement sort of working and studying to be a counsellor. Lost the job, went on to universal credit, and then I was just like, great, I've got furlough, universal credit coming in. And then I applied for a job now. I'm working for the NHS 111 service. And I was like, yeah, get all the banana bread, the yoga. I mean, smashing your Pilates, doing your lower body stuff, amazing. Or, if you're not a member of a client group, get involved with Georgina, because I've loved every aspect of it. I used to be a PT, and I just think it's bloody good to have.
Thank you, Shmorgs. I didn't even.
You're
pay
most
to
welcome.
Say that.
I know you didn't, but I honestly, Pilates, we'll get onto that later, but I absolutely love Pilates. And so I think I just went in guns blazing, and I was like, I've got all this time, I've never had it, I need to write blogs, sort website out, do this, that, and the other. And then it got to a point where I was just like, oh man, this is too much free time for me. It's actually too much. And so towards the end there, I felt like I was picking at wounds that didn't need picking at. And it just made me think about stuff that, there's a lot of stuff that I do address in my mental health generally. And I just think that I was unearthing stuff that I actually didn't need to address. I was just kind of like prodding at stuff that I felt like, what am I doing here? And then so when lockdown 2.0 arrived, counselling started once again. So Monday, I've had that every Monday, and then working throughout the week, and then doing assignments, and then just spending my time researching, and then really getting into, what it is. I've been studying grief and loss at the moment. And I think what's interesting of that, again, another segue on grief and loss, is there's a lot of studies and theories and models about grief that talk about avoidance is actually a tool and a tactic for grieving. And for me, I'm not an avoidant person. I'm always like, let's dig it up, let's get it processed. And there's a model that talks about, focusing on loss, and then focusing on the loss of a loved one or whatever it is in the grieving process, but then also focusing on restoration, like things like, paying your bills and making sure that you go to work. And those things, like oscillating between the two, and thinking about that model in relation to coronavirus, I just thought, I've never been one to avoid it, but from my first experience of lockdown 1.0, I actually needed some more avoidance, just like avoidance of like constantly thinking how I could be better, what I could do, how to use this time fruitfully, when, at the time, like thinking back retrospectively, I kind of wish I'd just chilled out a bit more, because and now I'm in the thick of a lot of work, and now I think, I could do with a bit more corona time, but now, that's not the case.
Yeah, it sounds familiar, because I think with lockdown 1, it maybe took us by surprise. We all kind of bandied together. It was very much like, right, well, we've got to do this. We've got to look after each other. So, you know, my group and my sessions was all focused on, right, I've got to get my clients through this. I've got to give them what they need. I've got to keep my business going. And, you know, it's because you've got extra time. You put in little finger.
Little finger marks. Little bunnies.
Because I actually did it. I found myself to be really busy as well. But you feel a certain pressure then because you're like, well, I better use this time productively. So I'm going to have to train. I'm going to get shredded. I'm going to do yoga every day. And I'm going to learn Spanish. And I'm going to read books. And we were fatigued very quickly.
Completely.
And I think that by the time we got to this one, we've kind of settled into the new normal, the way things are now. And we've all got a little bit sick of we're not bothering with the Zoom quizzes and having FaceTime catch-ups and all that kind of thing. We've all gone, oh, you know what, like I can't keep this going for the rest of my life or however long coronavirus is going to be hanging around. So we've all had to just chill a little bit. And I felt that recently with clients and with myself of going, well, how do we get motivated and how do we stay motivated? And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you're not motivated. and you can pick, you can either know when you're unmotivated, but you need to force yourself, which is where discipline comes in. And self-care, because sometimes self-care is parenting ourselves and saying, I don't care whether you feel like it, get some training done because it'll make you feel better. Or we decide, no, actually, we're really tired and we actually really do need a rest. And it's about knowing the difference between the two and giving ourselves a little break.
Completely. I think with that, it's like the motivation thing. I've been thinking about that recently because I was doing an assignment. The first one I handed in, my tutor just ripped it apart. She was like, this doesn't make sense. What about this, that, and the other? And I was like, oh man, like I put a lot of effort into that. And I thought I'd put like max effort in. And so when this assignment came round, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set a timer for an hour. Because I don't know if we discussed this before, if you discuss it on any other podcast, but there's a thing called the 4 tendencies, and I'm an upholder. So if there's someone says, be there at this time, I will be there. If someone says, do this and do that in that time, I'm honestly like a rat. I'm like, I'm on it.
We haven't talked about this, so talk us through the 4 tendencies on a little tangent.
Oh, on a tangent. Okay, so remind me where I was because I'll forget. So the 4 tendencies, a good friend of mine, Han, introduced me to the book. It's written by a woman called Gretchen Rubin. And I don't know if you put things in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll link to that in the show notes. There you go.
Show notes, yeah. So she told me to do the quiz. It's a free quiz you can do online and you can get the book, which explains every section. But basically there's 4 types of tendencies and this is how you meet expectations. So you've got obliger. They will constantly meet others' expectations and sort of second their own. An upholder, which will meet their own internal expectations and external ones. Then there's a rebel, who is Georgina. She'll do whatever the hell she wants, and sometimes to the detriment of herself.
People will be shocked to hear that I came out as a rebel.
I can't believe it. And then there's a questioner who will always meet their own internal needs first and question if they're ever going to do anything externally. So with me being an upholder, like if someone asks me to do something, I will do it. And if I want to do something for myself, I will also do it. If I've committed to it and I really want to do it, I'll do it. So with this assignment, I decided, right, I didn't really do so well in the first one. And I was just like, you know what, I just really can't be bothered, but I really need to do it, as you mentioned before. Set myself an hour timer, and as soon as I saw the timer, I was just like, right, research, grief and loss. Oh my god, right, okay, this, that, and the other. And I handed in the assignment draft, hadn't even finished it, and she went, "This is fantastic. You've passed the module." And I was just like, that was when I actually really bloody tried. And the first one, I kind of give it 80%. And I think sometimes, like what you say, you just have to parent yourself and just be like, well, did you actually give it your all? And this other one, I gave it my all, and the fruits of the labour were there. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you don't get the fruits of your labour.
There's something to be said about the time limit that you mentioned, is giving yourself a little time limit, because I think this is the thing for working from home. People are doing much shitter work for much longer time.
Oh my god, yeah.
If you can, like, I mean, I can do what I want, I'm self-employed, but if you can, work for 20 minutes, take a 10-minute break, work for 20 minutes, take a 10-minute break, because guess what? I actually, I don't know if she'll mind me saying this. Anna yesterday was doing something for work,
Mm-hmm.
and she worked out how much of what she was doing she did per hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I halved it, and I said, right, I'm going to give you 20 minutes to do that many. And then after 12 minutes, she was like, done. And I was like, well, now you can rest for the rest of those 20 minutes. You know what? You can have a cuppa now. So I think there's something to be said about putting a little time limit on, and also makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's, again, like personal training, like, you know, showing up to Pilates, which obviously I've been very expressive on how much I enjoy it. It's like turning up, and I love to attend the lives because it's like there's somebody there to be accountable to. And if they know that I'm coming, like, you know, coming to the class, they know that I'm there, then, you know, that drives me. And I think doing
and it means that I can talk
quiz,
to you, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. And you're like, get on, Shmorgs. And I'm like, aye, dead bugs at class, me Caulfield's class. And I think with that, knowing how you meet expectations, if you're an obliger and you're constantly feeling fatigued, it's just like, well, in order for you to perform, you always want to help other people and not yourself. And maybe you're wondering why you do that. So I think there's loads of little tools out there to develop your awareness. And it's like, oh, well, do I help other people first because I want to appear kind? Because if I don't appear kind, I'm a bad person, and that is ultimately my core belief. And so, like, all of these little tips and tools and tricks, you can just build on your self-awareness. And I think with that, it doesn't mean you have to constantly have a dig at your character every single hour of every day. But
yeah, and it's not about analyzing yourself constantly, is it? But the thing that I found from therapy is that is that self-awareness thing, and going, oh, actually, yeah, I do that. Why do I think that I do that? Okay, this is probably why I do that. So now I have a choice of whether I continue or stop it and change it.
Completely. And I think even that awareness, then after the awareness comes either the assimilation or the acceptance of what it is. Those two steps, it's not like, oh, one, I've done that in 3 minutes. Oh, two, I've done that in 4 minutes. Like, those are huge steps. And some, you know, some things I've discussed in counselling where I'm like, I've literally felt like the counsellor just kicked me in the chest, and I was like, that is such a hard pill to swallow. But I'm just like, you know, left and ruminated on it for about 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh, I wish someone had kicked me in the chest earlier. It's like therapy, because I hear a lot of people saying therapy doesn't work, there's this, that, and the other, doesn't work. And it's like, yeah, but it only works if you do the work. Yeah. And if you get a counsellor who is very direct and who will call you on your shit in a way that really gets you to recognise and sits there with the pain, almost just like this ball of whatever it is, then you have to digest that, and then you have the awareness and acceptance to move forward. It's like, you're going to have to do the work. And I think, I don't know what people believe about, you know, counselling or therapy, but it's just like, you are the driver behind your mental health. Like, who else is supposed to take care of you? Nobody else. And I think if you're not hunting the good, if you're not looking after yourself, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance at your mental health. There's so many people, you know, through the 111 service, you know, trying to take their life and self-harm and all this kind of stuff. And I just think, give yourself the best fighting chance and just keep looking after yourself and working on your mental health in a way, even if you just do it for 20 minutes a day. It's like, well, what can I research today? What book can I read? What did this person recommend? And maybe meditation's not for you, maybe exercise is not for you. But what about, did you love crochet when you were a kid? Did it bring you peace and solace? Like, just hunting the good, in my explanation of it, is just finding what works for you. And I'm constantly looking and working and finding what works for me. And sometimes it's not the traditional stuff. Sometimes it's just dancing in my underwear and having a good time. And sometimes it is, you know, formal meditation. Sometimes it is exercise. But it's what works for you, and not just thinking, oh, this person is a superstar, I like what they do, I'll do it because they get some goodness from it. It's just like, doesn't work like that. You're going to have to do the work.
Absolutely. And I think you can relate that to different things on different levels. For exercise wise, people will try and copy what other people do, and unless you enjoy it, if you don't enjoy going to spin class, if you're not motivated to go and get on that bike, then you're not going to do it. And you don't need to do yoga because someone on Instagram did it and you like their figure. You know, you might like taekwondo or Pilates like you do. You will find something that you like, but you need to find it for you. Meditation doesn't work for a lot of people. I would say that probably people who say, I can't meditate, I just can't stop thinking, probably need it more than anyone. And I think in that case, there's places where you can go, and there's people who can teach you. don't just sit in silence for 10 minutes and then feel like a failure because you haven't meditated.
Completely.
Maybe start by colouring. Maybe colouring in will get your brain to switch off.
And that's a meditation in itself. Exactly. And I think with that, like for me, for the past, how long is it? Maybe the past the 12th, just less than a month, I've been meditating every day. So for the past maybe 2 to 3 years, I've tried to find meditation. I've tried to just, sit still, silence, didn't work, tried apps. I'm very particular with voices. I feel like my mind, and I'm just like, ooh, that voice is a bit sexy. No. Ooh, that's a bit disingenuous. No. And it just takes me forever. And I'm like, oh, so I found this app. It's called Declutter the Mind. The guy has like a North American accent. It's just quite straightforward. He doesn't say like, oh my God, guys, I'm so excited to meditate with you. I can't wait. It's just like, I don't want you to be excited about my meditation. Like that's just like not what I feel like it's about. I just want to go in and just, have some space. And so I've tried a lot of different ways to meditate, and this for me is actually quite helpful. You can pay for it if you want, but there's a lot of free stuff on there, and it'll have like meditation for anxiety or breathing techniques or visualizations. And I've noticed at times when I feel stressed or I don't feel as energized in those 3 p.m. lulls that I explained earlier, I felt like it's been like a 20-minute nap. And sometimes, you have to sit up, and I'm like, I don't want to sit up. I want to lie down in my bed and I want to be warm. And so again, not doing it in the traditional sense, but I'm just doing my best and what works for me. And sometimes I'll do a walking meditation because I live really close to the Dean, and that is helpful. I'm like, there's so many dogs, there's people, they're running and having their coffees and walking, and it's a little community of people bandied together, but in silence, like silent strangers just doing it. And that makes me feel calm, like people are, doing their best. And I think exactly what you say, Georgina, like just finding what works for you. But traditional meditation might be difficult, but doesn't mean you have to give up. And it doesn't mean if you try it once that you can't, come at it in another direction. I think if you really want something and you really want to attain something and know it'll be beneficial for you, you will just keep going. That's in my own experience. I know if my motivation lacks and I really want it, I will just keep cracking at it until I find that way in.
You're not going to find enlightenment after 10-minute meditation the first time that you do it. It's just not going to happen. I'm the same as you. I've been trying meditation in different ways for years, and I'm still not sure that I'm there and that I've cracked it, but it's something that I do want to keep doing because, again, like you said, sometimes I'll just I might have 10 minutes in between clients and I'll just sit down, and I don't need to sit cross-legged with a straight spine and all of that. I'll sit down, I might put some meditation music on, or I might put a guided meditation like a Headspace on, and I'll take 10 minutes and I'll feel refreshed afterwards. So if that wakes me up, if that is what I needed to recharge and reset, then for me it's worked.
Completely. And I think with that as well, the way that it just, I think, we used to go to yoga together, go to yin yoga, or would go to Ashtanga. For me, yin yoga, like child's pose or whatever, sometimes I'd be like, oh, that pain in my hip. Oh, that's a pain in my hip. And then I'm like, next minute, oh, why are you so harsh to yourself as a child? And I'm like, where did that thought come from? I'm like, and then there's times I've just cried my eyes out in yin. It was this time when I was like, I think it was like swimming lessons in school, and we all had to wear our pajamas, and I was like chubby as a kid, and I just remember being like so harsh to myself. It was such a real intense like memory that came back through yoga, and I was like, was that like stored in me hip or like in me glute? Like, where did that come from? And I just cried my eyes out, and I felt like it was such a strange experience. I felt like I was picking on a small child, like someone who wasn't me, and it was just such a strange experience. And I think with meditation, what I've been learning over the past 28 days or whatever, sometimes I'll sit there and I'm like, oh, I'm so distracted. Sometimes I'll sit there and I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting point, and I'll write it down. But I think if you think that meditation is always going to bring these fruits and you're going to be calm and mindful, it's just like you're expecting far too much from it. Sometimes you just kind of sit there and you're like, well, that was pointless. And sometimes you're like, ooh, I've got this like cool but warm feeling across my body, and I feel reset. I feel like I've had like a mini sleep, but awakening at the same time. So,
and sometimes it'll piss you right off, just like exercise. Sometimes you feel weaker or less fit or tired or whatever, and it doesn't quite go for you. Some days you go into the gym, you absolutely smash it, you're knocking PBs out of the park. It's just different days, different feelings. It's going back to that emotion wheel, like 34,000 feelings, mate.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that, just talking about exercise, like I've got into running a lot this year because I do like a 5K loop from my house round the Dean, normally end it, get a coffee, and that's how I start my day sometimes. And I really enjoy that, and I like the location. And there's some days, whether, you know, since I've started yoga Pilates, definitely core is much stronger, chiropractor much stronger, adjusting the vitamins, yeah, one love.
I'm gonna have to get you on commission.
No, honestly, I'm saying this in a genuine sense because I really.
I'm gonna get you an affiliate link.
Yeah, I feel like just adjusting the things that are a little bit wrong. It's like it's made not wrong, sorry, but like maybe out of place, or hips out of place, or core not activating correctly, or legs not working in line with my core as well. When I'm running around Jasmine Dean, I'm like Phoebe. I'm just like, I feel so free. I'm like a dog, or like Phoebe. I'm just like running around, and maybe my form's not great, but I'm having the best time. And then every like fifth or sixth run, I'm like, oh God, this is awful. And I'm just like, come on, Morgs, just, you know, one more step. Sometimes you really have to, like, you know, dig deep. But generally, like, if you're working towards things that you like and you try and more things more often, it's like exactly what you say, just do more of what you love. And if you're going to work all day and your cortisol levels are sky high and you're stressed, then you're getting on a spin bike, which causes more stress if you don't like it. And it's actually, you know, exercise stress to the body. It's like, so you're stressed, and then you don't sleep because your adrenal glands are firing all over the place. You don't sleep, so then your eating's out, then you're snappy at your loved ones, then your relationships, you know, break down. It's like, just cover the basics first, you know, the mental health, nutrition, all that kind of stuff, good sleep, water. But then when you say that, it's like, oh, well, I've got my plan. And then as soon as you do that, it's like, well, no, because you didn't manage to eat well, you didn't manage to get a good sleep. So again, like for me, in all the lessons that I've learned, because I feel like I've been very aware of human behavior for such a long time, a lot of what I'm saying here is very much opinion based or my own experience. I am trained to be a counsellor, but I'm not qualified in any way as yet. It's like just about being fluid, just like trying to just move with it and move with whatever you're doing, and just humor. I think humor is so important, just to be like, laugh at yourself if you drop something, you smash something, or you mess something up. Just be like, oh, I really messed up there. Like, that's just quite silly. We are just like adult babies trying to understand ourselves. And I think,
and be careful how you talk to yourself, because some people, when they drop something, oh my God, I'm so clumsy. You're not clumsy. You're a person who dropped something.
Exactly, because then you're adding story to an action.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people do that quite intensely. They're just, you know, they're thinking so far in the future, or they're just like, who they are or what they do is a complete what they do is a complete reflection of who they are, of how much money they have in the bank, or how they look, or if they're attractive. And it's like, well, who do you want to be, and who are you showing up for? Are you showing up for yourself or people around you, or what people expect of you? And I think that perception of yourself is so important, but we're so concerned about how other people think of us. And I've definitely gone through that. You know, when I was 19, I'm 32 now. When I was 19, I was so sort of focused on how people thought of me, and I had anxiety and depression at the same time. And now I just don't care. I stopped wearing makeup because I remember like talking to a friend of mine in a field in Australia, and he just generally like asked the question, like, why do women wear makeup? He just didn't understand. And I was like, you know what? I don't have a solid reason for why I wear makeup. And I said, well, potentially because I'm covering aspects of my face I don't like. I know when I put red lipstick on, it's fun for me. I like it. I think red lipstick, I feel fun. I feel like energized or whatever. And I just thought, putting makeup on every day, I'm just covering the imperfections of my face, and it almost feels like a lie. And for some people, it's creativity, and they love it, and they're really good at the artistry and that kind of stuff. And when I, you know, see great makeup, I'm like, how the hell did you do that? You are a magician. But I think
some people love doing it. I mean, I sometimes like to put makeup on just if I'm like, what we started doing, Anna and I, is when we just go out for a walk, we'll put on really nice clothes and put makeup on, just to go to the garden centre or just to go for a walk, just because it makes us feel better. And because we're not really going anywhere at the moment, you know, we're not going out, there's been no going out or anything like that. It's just the change, and it's fun, and it makes us both feel nice. But it's one of those things, isn't it, where you just look at the motivation behind what you're doing. And we discussed this with my brother with TY Therapies, who is a psychotherapist, and it's, what is your motivation for doing that? And if you can just get into the habit of taking a pause and a breath asking yourself the question and maybe writing down, basically his answer to everything is write down.
Yeah. Free therapy, just like, oh, that's what I want to do. Right, okay.
Yeah, your insides, your subconscious will give you the answers.
Completely. And I think for me, with the makeup, it was just like, I actually don't want to take it off every night. I don't want to spend money on it. There's a brand I was using MAC, and they were testing on animals, and I was like, I don't believe in that. And I just thought, like, I don't want to use a product that is going to the suffering of animals just so I can cover up the things that I don't enjoy about my face. And I was just like, you know what? This is my real face, and I actually quite like my face. It doesn't,
You've got
doesn't
a
do me
lovely
any
face,
harm.
Shmorgs.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you to say. And I think, and then that's again with, female empowered. I think a lot of women, it's like, well, you should wear makeup and you should do this. Or when you're wearing makeup and not a lot of clothing and you want to do that, it's like, then you're getting judged. It's just like, whatever makes you feel fun. If you want to go to the garden centre with a tutu and a bikini with a full face of makeup and a wig on, crack on. But if you also don't want to and you just want to wear no makeup, then you're completely entitled to do it, but just choose your choice, not someone else's expectation of you.
Very interesting.
So, all about that. I just think so many pressures on people to be who they ought to be, in inverted commas, that people don't actually know who they actually are because they're so used to pleasing other people, pleasing the people around them, that they actually don't know who they are because they've been faking it for so many bloody years. Yeah.
This is like a little mind blown moment, Shmorgs. I'm just like,
all right, tell us what you think.
My internal clock is just ticking about all these things, and if people have been doing these things for so long for other people, and then it's like, who even is I?
Exactly. And then when you stop doing these things, these people who've relied on you for, showing up with makeup every day, or relying on you as the person to call up, or relying on you to take care of the kids or do the groceries, when you put boundaries up, it's not like you discover boundaries and then everything's cool. People react to your boundaries. They're like,
that's
hey,
the hardest
where's
point.
my service?
Yeah. And that was something that we've discussed with Stephen Hall as well, psychotherapist.
Steve, big up to Steve.
Is
good
that
guy.
People put you in boxes, and the box is to serve them. You're the person that enables them because you eat cake every day in the office, or you're this sibling, you're the child that does that, and you sit in these boxes for people. When you suddenly then go, oh, actually, I'm trying to lose some weight at the moment for my health and to feel more confident about myself, so I'm not going to eat that cake today. People go, what were you fine as you are, just have a piece of cake? No, I don't want it because I'm doing this for me. You suddenly put that boundary in place, starts upsetting people, and we discussed it with the toxic friends as well. I'm sure the person who you are serving, the person who you bring something to the table every day, who brings nothing, I'm sure they are having a lovely time and they're getting a lot out of that relationship. So when you then put up your boundary and go, actually, I'm not really sure what I'm getting from this relationship, and I feel like this, it's definitely going to put them on the back burner.
Oh, completely. And I think with that, like, there's so many examples as you're talking through that come to mind. And I guess if you're given a lot to people, in the past I've definitely been guilty of people pleasing. I think I've got that quality of people pleasing, but just being curious like a golden retriever. I'm just like, oh, what's going on with you? Oh, can I help? And I just go in guns blazing. And in the past, it's got me into a sticky situation where I've just been completely burnt out, where I've just been seen as a listener or as a counselor rather than a human who also has things. And that's my own doing, as well as sort of, because I'm almost like offering a service.
I think that's the thing, and that's what I immediately thought. As a close friend, as I would regard you, Shmorgs, we're very good friends.
Thanks, Paul.
I think that you will make an amazing counsellor. You are going to be a phenomenal counsellor because you are very easy to talk to. You're very inquisitive. And I think probably I can imagine people treat you as a counsellor, and people will feel great after they've talked to you because they'll have spent hours talking about themselves, answering questions about themselves. telling you how you feel without probably asking or giving much back to you. And it's that recharge relationship, isn't it? If I give you 50%, I would like 50% back, so that we can keep topping up each other. And that, like, everyone needs to have a therapist, because it is great talking about yourself for an hour. But I pay my therapist to talk about myself, and I still feel a little bit.
It's a transaction.
Yeah. And I still feel a little bit bad sometimes that I don't ask her any questions. When she says, "How are you?" she always starts the session by going, "How are you?" And I always go, "I'm fine, thanks. How are you?" And then I'm
good,
like,
"Oh, about you, pal."
But sometimes I think maybe I'm just trying to deflect.
And then she's like, okay, she did this right. She's on to you. But I think with that, like, I think for me, again, it's talking about, bashing your hip on the corner of a bench in the kitchen. For me, boundaries is my lesson. I know that I have a natural empathy and listening, and I'm good at that. Like, it's just what comes natural to me. But I need to put the stoppers on it. And so me learning boundaries, which I feel like are just developing more and more and more. And that's something I'm going to, have to completely understand as being a counsellor, because if not, I'll burn out and I won't be able to do it as a job. But I think, we've had this discussion before, when you are, like, for me, I'm a giver in terms of listening, but you are an energizer, and you're constantly, you're waking up, crack a dawn. You used to get up at like 5 a.m, getting people to exercise, motivate. And it's like, well, who fills you up? And generally, like, I think people who are quite active and energetic, they don't need that much back. But if you get nothing back, you're constantly listening to people, and then people just think that, because you're happy, that you're always okay. And I would say I'm, pretty happy most of the time. And if I'm not, I'll share that with people. Or sometimes I think, in my own experience, I just thought, well, I know this person because I've constantly listened to them. They don't actually have time to listen to me. So me opening up to them is me being like, metaphorically naked in front of them, very vulnerable. And then I'm not being listened to, and that is painful. And that's quite difficult when you've given so much to someone. So
what
I think
do you do
it's just
in that situation, Shmorgs?
How do you mean?
So if you've got a friend and you spend a lot of time listening to their problems, and they're the type of friend, they're complaining about their boyfriend, girlfriend, they're complaining about their job, there's a lot of moaning going on, and they feel comfortable letting all that moaning out to you, but then you go, actually, by the way, I have this problem and I haven't really got any time or attention to give to you. What do you do? What do you do about that relationship? What do you do about that friend?
So the friendship for me, and I think it's something I've been learning, it's just like, because of the way that I have acted in the past, or, acted quite recently, giving all the time, and me understanding that, it's just like, if that person doesn't understand adult emotional intelligence, or have that awareness that you can be in pain, but also another person could be in pain, and there's the sharing of, like, and like you said, that balance. If there's no understanding of that, and it's like, I'm sure that Steve will maybe discuss transactional analysis, if it's kind of parent-child, if it's like I'm the parent and they're the child and I'm constantly looking after them, for me, I've understand, and for my self-worth, I cannot have friendships like that anymore, because I'm going to have potentially clients who will exhibit these emotions, and they're paying me money for my skills. I am not a counsellor all the time. I've got me, Morgan, I'm a counsellor. I've got me, Morgan, Hunt the Good Project. I've got me, who likes to dance at 6 a.m. I like the sunrises. I like coffee cake. I like high-fiving dogs. Do you know what I mean? I like reading books. I like chatting philosophy. I like meditation. I like dancing with people. I like making people happy. But it's just like counselling, one facet of who I am. I'm not a service for you. And, if you want my service, I will, send you the bill. And I think for me, that has just been the boundary that I need to set. Because if not, I'll just, like you say, I'll be working every hour of the day, and I'll dilute my quality, and that's just not something that it's a non-negotiable for me. Yeah. You're just like,
Yeah, boundaries are hard, but very important, aren't they? Very important. Shmorgs, I could talk to you all day. I mean, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've covered a lot in this chat, and there's going to be a lot for people to take in.
How should we end it?
I did have some questions from people, but we've covered a lot of them, and they're not the kind of questions that you can quick fire. So we'll leave those for another time. Maybe we could do an Instagram live for people's questions.
That would be lovely. Yeah, I'd be keen.
So how I would like to wrap this up is a couple of things. One, I know you'll have loads of book recommendations. Give us some top
top ones. What have I really enjoyed? I really like The School of Life and Emotional Education.
I've got A School of Life and I haven't read it yet.
You've got it I think it's the one that you've got. It's the foreword was done by Alan de Botton, but everyone who works for the School of Life, they kind of write in the same way. Again, like that psychologist I mentioned, he just covers and dips into loads of different things about marriage, relationships, your own self, career. Like he covers like everything in that book. So I think if you're new to awareness and you have children and marriage and different things, a lot of the people that you work with, you know, kind of fit that demographic. That would be a great book. What else have I read recently?
I will just say as well, anything that we have mentioned, I will put in the show notes with a little link. We do get a little kickback if you buy any of the books through the links. It's a tiny amount, but every little helps. So if you did want to buy anything,
that's good.
Check the links there. And if you think of any other Shmorgs, we can always list them for people to recommend.
Well, I can quickly list some others that you and I have discussed. So in New Earth, the one I bought you from your birthday, Eckhart Tolle. Great guy.
That takes us to the question of who even is me? Who am I? What is the ego?
Ready for some mind
well, then where's
blowing.
My personality? Ooh.
Oh, you got to be ready for that one. It's a hard hitter. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Another brilliant book.
Yeah, great.
What else? Yeah,
and I think off the top of my head, Not Giving a Fuck is great as well.
Oh yeah, very digestible. You feel like you're just kind of having a beer with the guy who's, you know, telling you the crack. So that's quite nice.
Yeah. Wicked. And where can we find you, Shmorgsy?
So mainly at the moment on Instagram. For me, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, what is Hunt the Good project about? And I originally started it in the hopes of sort of doing workshops just to build people's awareness, doing like tasks and tools with a bit of sort of deepness, but also a bit of humor and just a space for people to develop their awareness. And that was kind of developing at the start of this year. I had a few book clubs and different things that went, you know, really well and people seemed to enjoy them. And then COVID happened. And for me, I didn't want to lose the integrity of the group by putting things online, but mainly I just write my thoughts and experiences on Instagram. I pose some questions and just to give you, you know, some people read them and sometimes you think, oh, that's not for me. And then sometimes it hits the nail on the head for people. And, you know, there's an opportunity, some polls, some questions, different things like that. In the future, I hope to have more workshops and things. And again, just I think because, you know, trying to get access to therapy is quite difficult. It's just like, well, how can we work together and understand ourselves on our own and how can we exactly hunt the good? So, yeah.
I do recommend that everybody follows Shmorgs on Instagram at Hunt the Good Project. It does give you little bites to think about most days. Yeah, very good. If you want to start a little journey of self-awareness, very good place to start.
I think, I don't know if however you want to end this, but I just think for me in my own experience of mental health, it's like you're going to have to do the work. And I don't know where you're listening to this. Like I listen to podcasts when I'm walking. Like if you needed a message today, my message is you need to do the work. You can't just rest and think, you know, it's not good for me. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough as these people. It's just like, well, maybe you're not, but you need to try. Like you need to try. And if you need this message today, stop waiting for it. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You need to rescue yourself. So that's my final message.
Boom! Mic drop. Boom! That is exactly
I just feel like,
where we'll end it.
Just want to be in someone's ears when they're walking around and just like, they're like, oh God, she can see me. It's like, I can see you in the park. I can see you.
Stop
do the work.
Waiting. This is the
time
message.
Is now. Alert, alert. This has been a pleasure, Treasure.
Thanks, Shmorgs. Thank you so much.
Thanks, pal.
You are a wonder.
You are too. I'll see you soon.
Lots of love, and I will see you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks for making my peach peachy. See you later.
Love you. Bye.
If you want to improve your well-being in a non-wanky way, you can join hundreds of other like-minded people in my monthly subscription group for live training sessions, daily workouts, nutrition tips, meditations, and more. Only $10 a month. Email me now, georgina@georginahalltraining.com. Thank you for listening to the Female Empowered podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Female Empowered, where you can also get involved with our discussions, and feel free to send us a message.